Shri Chaitanya Manobhishtam Shavitam Jina Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kathamayam Tadati Swakatantikam Priya Surupe Daita Surupe Prema Surupe Sahajabi Rupe Nijana Rupe Prabhueka Rupe Tithana Rupe Swabila Surupe Anapita Chirim Chirat Kurunavartino Kalo Samarpaitam Unnata Ujvala Rasam Swabhakti Shriyam Hari Purata Sundarati Katamba Satipita Sada Hrdare Kandare Spuratu Vasachinandanaha Yam Pravajantamana Petyam Apeti Krityam Dvaipaino Viraha Katara Achubhava Putre Titam Mayatayo Taravopinidustam Sadbhutam Nimanatoshmi Bhaktiya Vihina Aparada Lakshay Shiptascha Karmadi Tarangamati Kripamai Tvam Sharam Brahmana Brinde Namaste Charanadavindam Bhajami Radham Aravinda Netram Smarami Radham Madhurashmitasyam Vadami Radham Karunavarakam Tatamahasti Katilakapi.
Prabhuji, mute hai.
I'm offering also Namo Bhaktivinodaya Satchidananda Namine Gauda Shakti Swarapaya Rupanuga Vraite. All glories to Srila Bhaktivedanta Thakur, who we're going to read from today. So, and all glories to all the Vaishnava and Vaishnavi devotees of the Lord. Jai. Rupanuga Guru Varga Ki Jai. Gaur Premanandi.
Hari 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 Bol.
So, yesterday we said a few words about Jiva Tattva, and today I'm feeling inspired to actually go a little more deeper into that. We've been discussing Prema Bhakti, but at the same time, Jiva Tattva needs to be fully appreciated. The Jiva and his relationship with Krishna, this is Sambandha Gyan. So this Sambandha Gyan is discussed in the first 12 chapters of Jaiv Dhamma. This is where the first 12 chapters are taking us. And after that, in chapter 13, then the commencement of the Dasmula begins. This Amnaya Praha Tattvam Harim Iha Paramam Sarva Shaktim Rasabdim. This verse contains all the truths, all the ontological truths that are conceivable for mankind. So this Jaiva Dhamma, of course, is an eternal granta. It's taken, Bhaktivedanta Thakur, he channeled this Jaiva Dhamma, and he actually wrote it in 2 months in Sri Goldram Dweep, in Surabhikunj is where he actually wrote it. And it contains everything from A to Z of all the spiritual tattvas, the Sambandha Tattva, the Abhideya Tattva, and the Prayojan Tattva. So coming to the Jiva Tattva, the Jiva Tattva begins in chapter 15. And just prior to that is Shakti Tattva in chapter 14. Prior to that is chapter 13, where the whole Dasamula is laid out. And we are understanding in chapter 13, who is that Supreme Lord, who is that Supreme Personality of Godhead, and what are his qualities. There's 50 qualities of the Jiva are described at the end of this chapter 13. And then the 55 qualities, within the devas are described. This is absolutely paramount and necessary to bring us to the personal conception. Without having the personal qualities of the jiva explained or opened out, then there's no sambandha. We understand that in the Brahmajyoti, which we've spoken about a little bit yesterday, there's no sambandha because there's no two personalities. There's simply the jiva in his neutral position there in the Brahmajyoti. And then it's describing the 55 qualities of the devas, and Lord Brahma and Lord Shiva have the same 55, but to a greater degree, a greater extent. And then we have the 60 qualities of Lord Narayan, and then we conclude with the 64 qualities of Sri Krishna, Bhagavan Sri Krishna himself. These 4 extra qualities, Prem Madhuri, Rup Madhuri, Leela Madhuri, and Rup Madhuri. Did I say them all? Rup, Leela, Prem, Venu, yes. So these 4 qualities are specific to Brajendra Nandan Shyam Sundar. And then I'm just explaining this to try and catch the methodology of this Jaiva Dharma. It goes in a very systematic approach to the ultimate reality, beginning from the 26th chapter, when Srila Bhaktivedanta Thakur moves the whole pastime into Puri Dham, to be close to the Gambhira, to be close to these most essential truths that manifested there in Puri, when Mahaprabhu was actually experiencing this Vipralamba Bhava. So it's a continuum, it's a current. So after the 14th chapter is so important. 14th chapter is really pivotal because it describes Shakti Tattva. Without Shakti Tattva, without understanding Shakti Tattva, we can't understand Jiva Tattva, which we're going to look at today. So, Subal Prabhu, he's posted a diagram of Krishna Paratattva, Swarup Shakti, onto your WhatsApp threads. So you can see that in relationship to Shakti Tattva. We understand that Krishna is that supreme original source, and the illumination emanating from there is the energy, the Shakti. Krishna himself does nothing. He has 2 qualities, these qualities of Swa Tantrata and the qualities of Ichamayata. Krishna has only these 2 qualities. This is freedom and free will. In other words, Krishna is independent of his Shakti, but the Shakti is fully dependent on Krishna, exactly like a fire. A fire is not dependent on the heat. The heat is fully dependent on the fire. So similarly, Radha in Tattva is fully dependent, or Shakti is fully dependent on Krishna, the Shaktiman. But in Rasa Tattva, that whole dynamic changes, which is remarkable to appreciate. This is when Sri Radha, she will control that Shaktiman. So it takes another step forward. But in this Shakti Tattva, it's very clearly describing that everything in existence is emanating from Shakti, from Chit Shakti, all in existence. Baladev Prabhu is manifesting from Swarup Shakti. It's described, I think I said the other day, it's saying in Brahma Samhita that he's the first manifestation. He is the first manifestation through Swarup Shakti. So we understand we've got that clear, that everything is manifesting from Shakti. So now I'm just jumping very fast here because we only have perhaps...
Baladev Prabhu is not manifesting from Krishna. He's coming from Shakti.
He's coming from Shakti. He's coming from Swarup Shakti. All manifestations are emanating from Shakti Tattva. Everything. This Sandini Shakti is embodied. Lord Balaram is the Ishtadev of Sandini. And from that Sandini Shakti, all the personalities in Goloka Vrindavan are manifesting on the platform of that Sandini. Sandini means existence. So everything in existence is coming from that Sandini Shakti. But that Sandini Shakti itself is manifesting from Swarup Shakti.
And Nadani also from solution.
Everything from, yes, Hladini Shakti is the same as Swarup Shakti. It's all coming through that same current. Hladini Shakti is the pleasure potency that is specific to all the living entities in existence, have something of this Hladini Shakti. Even in the material sphere, it's called Jad Anand. In the spiritual realm, it's called, we can say, Harinam Anand or Bhajan Anand. This Anand is all manifesting from Sri Radha. And this same Hladini is manifesting in this material world as Jad or dull pleasure. So I'm just going to dive straight in to the description of the Jiva and his manifestation. Actually, when you come to reading this Jaiva Dharma, I'm sure many of you have probably read it many times and are familiar with it, but if you want to get the essence of each chapter, it's within the Dasmula Shlok. In the Dasmula Shlok, it encapsulates the essence of the chapter. So in this chapter on Jiva Tattva, chapter 15, I'm looking at, it's describing this Spurlinga. Let me get my specs on to read this. Can you read this? You don't have your Jaiva Dhamma with you. I should have told you.
You can share there if you want.
So, Spurlinga Pradena Eva Chid Anavya Jiva Nischaya Hare Suryasya Yaiva Pratik Apitu Tad Veda Vishaya Ha Vashe Maya Yasya Prakriti Pratia Evasvara Iha Sa Jivo Mukto Pi Prakriti Vasho Yogaha Swa Gunataha. So this is Das Mula 5. I'm going quite quickly here. I'm presuming that you understood or appreciated these first chapters, and I'm just coming to this essence of Jiva Tattva, and then we'll go to chapter 16 and explain more about that. But I hope that you have questions for me, because it's the questions which will open it out, open the topic out. I want you all to understand these points or appreciate these points. Actually, I'll say just initially, we can never understand Jiva Tattva because we have no experience of eternality. So we can't really understand, but we can appreciate the logical presentation of it. So this verse translates as, just as many tiny sparks burst out from a blazing fire, so the innumerable jivas are like atomic spiritual particles in the rays of the spiritual sun. Sri Hari. So it's going to be described in chapter 16. There are 3 types of jivas. Two types are eternally relishing seva in the spiritual world. Those in Madhurya realm and those in the Aishwarya realm. These are eternal. And the third type is manifesting from this Tatashta energy, which is in the Brahmajyoti. So 3 types of jivas. Though these jivas are non-different from Sri Hari, they are also eternally different from him. The eternal difference between the jiva and Ishvara is that Ishvara is the Lord and Master of Maya Tattva, whereas the jiva can fall under the control of Maya even in his liberated stage due to his constitutional nature. Now it's described just a little bit further on how the what is the non-difference between the jiva and Krishna. I think this is very important to appreciate. So if you look at the page, if you have this Jaiva Dharma edition that I'm having, if you can get to page 346, Here it's got an explanation that what is the difference between Ishvara and Jiva. And Babaji is saying, first, you should understand the non-difference between Ishvara and the Jiva. So we just have to clear this point first, and then we'll go to the Jiva not falling from Goloka Vrindavan. First, you should understand the non-difference between Ishvara and the Jiva, and after that, I'll explain their eternal difference. Ishvara is the embodiment of knowledge, Gyan Swarup, the knower, Nata Swarup, one who considers or reflects, Manta Swarup, the enjoyer. Krishna is the enjoyer, and we are also enjoyers. We have knowledge, and Krishna also has knowledge. He is self-effulgent, Swaprakash. We also have self-effulgence. If you are a clairvoyant, you can see auras, etc., the light radiating out of the jivas. So this is a fact. And he also illuminates others, Paraprakash. For example, you can make someone very happy and they become very bright, so you're illuminating other people. So he has desires, Ichamayi. Krishna has desires, the jiva has desires. He is the knower of all, Ketra Gyan, and the jiva can know his own consciousness and mind. But Bhagavan, he knows all consciousnesses and mind. So this distinction, first appreciating the difference, or first appreciating the similarity, and then appreciating the distinction between the jiva and Krishna, will begin to help us understand this jiva tattva, which we're looking at now. So these jivas burst out from a blazing fire. So the innumerable jivas are like atomic spiritual particles in the rays of the spiritual sun, Sri Hari. So in that spiritual sun is the Brahmajyoti. That Brahmajyoti is the illumination. And it's from there that the Tatashta jivas emanate. So I have to come into chapter 16 here, where we want to look at this Dasmula 6. Because we've only got a single day on this topic, I'm really racing along. If you can't keep up and want me to open something out that I've just gone through, then you question me as I'm going. So now we come to Dasmula 6. I'll just read the translation. By his original nature, the jiva is an eternal servant of Krishna. This is our original staibhav. Every jiva in existence has this staibhav, jivara suruphoy, krishnera nityadas. It's his nature to serve the Lord. That's his inherent nature. His swarup dharm is service to Krishna. Bhagavan's bewildering energy, Maya, punishes those jivas who are bereft of that swarup dharm. So when we leave that swarup dharm, when we walk away from our inherent nature, this is when we're going to come under the illusory energy and be experiencing pain and suffering of this material world. When we leave that swarup dharma, it's very simple. My nature is to serve Krishna. If I'm following that nature, then the trials and tribulations of the body are not really affecting the consciousness. They will always affect the body because the body is material and the body has to deteriorate in death, etc. We have to grow old, we have to suffer the pains of birth, death, disease, old age, etc. We have to go through that anyway because we have a material body. But the realized soul, he's completely tolerant to these pains and pleasures of the body, especially the pleasures as much as the pains. He refuses to get too much caught up in the pleasure or the pain. He remains aloof from the material modes of nature. These jivas are diverted from Krishna and are concerned with their own happiness. This inherent selfishness, Srila Bhakti Rakshak Maharaj, he describes very beautifully. I think I said the other day that the jiva has a false ego to, the false ego, the purpose of the false ego is to hide the jiva from the intense horror of his own insignificance. The jiva is just the size of an atomic particle, and yet his false ego covers him. So when that false ego starts to melt, then the real insignificance of the jiva will come to mind in the consciousness, and this will bring deep humility. So these jivas are diverted from Krishna and are concerned with their own happiness. She binds them in the ropes of the three modes of material nature, sattva, raja, and tama, covers their swarup with gross and subtle bodies, throws them into the miserable bondage of karma, and thus repeatedly causing them to experience happiness and distress in heaven and hell. So this is the nature of the jivas who are possessed by Maya. So this is the chapter that I wanted to come to. I just barely touched on Jiva Tattva, how we are all manifesting from sparks, like in a fire, from the one radiant sun of Sri Hari. Now we're going to appreciate the placement, so to speak, of those spirit souls. Okay, these three types of spirit souls. So now it's describing in this chapter 16 on page 356, if you have this regular blue edition. Innumerable jivas appear from Sri Baladev Prabhu to serve Vrindavan Bihari Sri Krishna as his eternal associates in Goloka Vrindavan. That's the first type of jiva. And we can't really question why those jivas manifested in that way. It's just the way Krishna decided to manifest them. We have to become Sharanagat and accept Krishna's plan in this. Otherwise, we'll become very confused. Yes, Subal has just put that, the document that I'm reading now. And others appear from Sri Sankirtan to serve the Lord of Vaikuntha, Sri Narayan, in the spiritual sky. Eternally relishing rasa, engaged in the service of their worshipable Lord, they always remain fixed in their constitutional position. It's saying that they always remain fixed in their constitutional position. They cannot fall from this constitutional position. It's their staibhav, it's their swadharma. They don't fall from there. It's not possible. It's not possible because of the tremendous attraction and affection they are experiencing for Sri Hari in that realm. It's a bond of affection and attraction. It's nothing less than that. And that bond is overwhelming the consciousness with the sweetest praying. There is Vaikuntha praying and there is Goloka praying. So these are two stages of praying. And that's what is the binding factor. They always remain fixed in their constitutional position. They always strive to please Bhagavan and are always attentive to him. That's what we just said. They're always attracted to him. They, having attained the strength of Chit Shakti, they're manifesting from Chit Shakti, and they're experiencing the strength of that Chit Shakti or Swarup Shakti. They are always strong. They have no connection with the material energy. In fact, they do not know if there is a bewildering energy called Maya or not. Since they reside in the spiritual world, Maya is very far away from them and does not affect them at all. Always absorbed in the bliss of serving their worshipable Lord, they are eternally liberated and are free from material happiness and distress. Their life is love alone, and they are not even conscious of misery, death, or fear. This is the nature of the spiritual world entirely. And if we really appreciate that paragraph, we can see that it's absolutely impossible for anyone to fall from there. So I'm just purifying that misconception as we go along. So now we come to the conditioned jiva in this world. There are also innumerable atomic conscious jivas who emanate as rays in Karanadakshay Mahavishnu's glance upon his Maya Shakti. But we should backtrack from here to appreciate what I described yesterday. If you have that document that I had yesterday of the jivas before they take this material designation, this situation as a living entity within the Brahmajyoti. We've just described in Jiva Tattva how the rays burst like sparks from a blazing fire. These sparks from a blazing fire are appearing in the spiritual sun of Sri Hari. That spiritual sun is the Brahmajyoti. And within that spiritual sun, because we are of the nature of Tatashta, and this will be explained in a minute, this nature of Tatashta is moving from one side, one bank of a river to another bank. We can oscillate. That is the nature of the jivas in the Brahmajyoti. They have this marginal nature. And that marginal nature wakes up at one point. It's an eternal realm. So we are completely eternal in that realm of the Brahmajyoti. But we come to have a point of decision, whether to be attracted to the spiritual conception. We don't know the actual reality of the spiritual perception, but there is an atmosphere of that. There is a sound vibration of beauty and sweetness of worship to Sri Hari. And we can either be attracted to that conception of service to the Lord, or we can be attracted to becoming apparently like the Lord. This is the illusory energy, Maya Devi. She has her glittering potency right alongside the jiva. And all of us here have certainly chosen to be attracted to Maya Devi. So I hope this initial part is very clear for everybody. If it's not clear, then you can ask a question now. Otherwise, we'll go on and describe the jiva bound by Maya. So, emanating from the rays of Karanadakshay Mahavishnu's glance upon his Maya Shakti. So we understand that Karanadakshay Vishnu, he glances towards Mahamaya for pastime's sake. And in that glance, Ramadevi, she understands he's glancing there, so she manifests the potency of that illumination. And within that illuminating glance, Shambhu, he's going to carry that glance into the Udara Shakti, it's called, or like the womb of Pradhan. The Pradhan is like the unconglomerate condition of the material nature, exactly like a mother who has all the ingredients to produce a child in the embryo, but nothing's manifested until the seed of the father is planted within the embryo. So Shambhu, Shiva, he is carrying that seed and to impregnate the material energy. That's called Pradhan. Pradhan is the unconglomerate. What do you call it?
Unmanifested state.
Yes, the unmanifested state. And when? Inactive, yes. When it's activated, because within the seed are two qualities. What is in the seed that is being carried by Shambhu? Two principles of time and the jiva himself, Kala. Yes, this is what is within the seed. And that Kala, it agitates the three modes of material nature. And then the whole Mahatattva ensues from there. So this is the initial conception of the spiritual world that we are going to manifest in, we are going to come in. But our home is an eternal place because we're coming from the eternal Brahmajyoti. So understand, when Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada will say we are eternal spirit souls and have always been, that is absolutely fact. We are eternal spirit souls, but we haven't been performing pastimes with Krishna. We've been in this neutral Shantaras stage that is described by Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati very beautifully in that essay. So then the jivas are manifesting. Once the jiva decides he wants to come into this realm, then he comes into the body of Mahavishnu. That's the sequence. Because it's from the body of Mahavishnu that he's going to emanate into the material worlds. It's coming through that. This is what it's saying. It's saying Karnadakshay Vishnu's glance upon his Maya Shakti. So we are emanating from there. Understand? Clear? It's very simple. I've actually made a video.
Is there any difference between the jivas which directly manifest in the spiritual world?
No. Ultimately, there's no difference essentially by their constitutional nature, but their Haribol, Dandavat Pranams. But their natures, their staibhavs are different because they've been manifested with different staibhavs. So those staibhavs that are manifested in Vaikuntha, they have the mood of worshipping the Lord in great Aishwarya and opulence. That is where they are most fully satisfied and engaged. And they don't want to change that. It's not like you can, once you're manifest in Vaikuntha, that's it. You're completely happy with it. It's like we can relate to this by our own selves. Whatever nature you have, you actually fundamentally like that. That's who you are. You would never give that up. You may admire somebody else's qualities, etc., but you would never want to give up your own inherent nature. So that's like the traditional staibhav. You never want to give that up. So those jivas born in Vaikuntha, it's essentially a liberated condition of, Sarupya, Samitya, Sharsti, Salokya. These four liberated conditions are within the realm of Vaikuntha. So that's the Vaikuntha Bhav. You're fully liberated and you fully will serve the Supreme Lord in that realm. Rupa Goswami Ji Ki Jai. Dandavat Pranams. Haribol. So,
But Radharani and all will not come from Brahmajyoti.
no way. Prabhu is asking, does the eternal Nityasiddha Parikas of Goloka Vrindavan, like Sri Radhika, come from the Brahman? Never. They are, this is what it's saying, we've just read. Back here, I'll backtrack a second. It's saying that innumerable jivas appear from Baladev Prabhu to serve Vrindavan Bihari Sri Krishna as his eternal associates in Goloka Vrindavan. That's the first type of jiva. They come directly from Baladev Prabhu. Baladev Prabhu, why Baladev Prabhu? Because he's the Ishtadev or embodiment of Sandini. Sandini means existence potency. The existence, to have existence for the personalities in Goloka Vrindavan, they have to have existence. It's described it's described in here. If you look at this, if you have your phone here, the Sandini Shakti manifests everything like water, earth, forest, gardens, Giriraj Govardhan, all transcendental objects, all transcendental bodies of Sri Radhika, Sri Krishna, the Sakis, the Sakas, cows, dasas, dasis. Everything, this is under the Sandini Shakti coming from the Chit Shakti. This is their forms. The form has existence. It's a wonderful contemplation when we think about these three Shaktis of Sandini, Sangbit, and Hladini. Just really to think about them for so many years, I'm thinking about these qualities, these energies, and how they relate to our lives. So this existence Shakti, anything that has existence, has its ultimate manifestation, we can say, from the Sandini.
So Sakhi will come from
So
Sakhi?
all Sakis, yes,
They will come from Radharani?
yes. The body of Sri Radhika will come from the Sandini Shakti.
Not from
Within is the Sangvit Shakti.
not from Sarup Shakti.
Swarup Shakti is manifesting originally the Sandini Shakti.
Not they don't
It's all
manifest
coming
three-
from originally. All right,
they don't
we
manifest
backtrack. We
three-
got
three
the
together.
one energetic source, the sun, and from that energetic source, the heat or the rays are manifesting. Within the rays of that sun, that energy that is called Shakti or Swarup Shakti. Then from that Swarup Shakti is manifesting the Sandini Shakti, the Chit Shakti, the Maya Shakti, the Bal Shakti. All these Shaktis are manifesting from the Swarup Shakti. And then from that Sandini Shakti, that existence potency, the body of Sri Radhika will have a form, will have cohesive form, her body. It's fully made of Chit Shakti, Swarup Shakti.
But not from Haldwani.
Huh?
That will not come. the
It
body will
contains
not-
fully, it's saying, the Hladini Shakti is fully Sri Radhika. Sri Radhika is the embodiment of Hladini Shakti, the Easter Dev.
And Sakhis will come through her only. They will not come from
Yes,
Balaram.
because they're Kaya Vyuha, they don't come from Balaram. But the Sakas, they will come from Balaram. You have to divide these Shaktis in your mind.
Is there any personification or any embodiment of the Swarup Shakti?
Well, it's Sri Radhika. Sri Radhika is
Also Sri Radha.
that embodiment of Swarup Shakti. She's the totality of Swarup Shakti. But she has manifestations, and one of them is Sandini Shakti, existence potency.
That's
That is Baladev, Prabhu. Baladev is representing that.
okay.
We can't understand this because it's beyond the material senses. I was just reading today that in the Manu Samhita, it's saying that we should not argue or debate those topics that are beyond the material senses, that are beyond consciousness, that are achintya. We simply have to hear them and try to appreciate them. We should try to logically, rationally fix. It has to make sense to us. Otherwise, it's not abstract. So the questions he's asking are very pertinent. But this Sandini Shakti is the baseline. It's the foundation. It's existence itself. Krishna wants to manifest his pastimes in Goloka Vrindavan. For that, there must be existence of the land where he performs his pastimes, the trees, the cows, etc. So all of that is on the platform of Sandini Shakti. And that's all ultimately manifesting from Swarup Shakti.
Okay, but I don't know where I read it, but I read that first Sri Balaram is manifested from the right portion of Krishna.
No,
And then
no. That's not right. That's not right.
Shri Radhika is manifested from the left portion.
No, that's actually incorrect. From the right-hand side of Krishna, Gopeshwar Mahadev is manifesting. And from the left side, Sri Radhika is manifesting. This is what my Gurudev has said numerous times. Gopeshwar Mahadev, to protect the Ras Leela, Gopeshwar Mahadev is the first manifestation from Krishna's right-hand side. And from the left side, Sri Radhika, Swarup, his own Rup, his Swarup. So we can find so many quotes from my Gurudev to say this. And you know what? If you look through Shastra to find the Praman for this, it's very tough to find it because it's something that my Gurudev has described. This is how he's described it. And he's described it because Gopeshwar Mahadev had to protect the Rasastali right at the very beginning. When Radha and Krishna, the first thing when Radhika comes from his Rup as his Swarup, his energy, she immediately turns to Krishna and runs to embrace him. And then she appreciates that to serve him fully, she needs to manifest all the Kaya Vyuha of all the different Sakhis, billions of Sakhis, to please him fully. All of his potential of rasa is manifested by Sri Radhika. Actually, the whole thing that we're describing can be really, when we get right into it, can be appreciated by the point of love. When we think of the loving relationships, this is how we can begin to appreciate it. But it's something we have to think about for, some time. But I'm just laying down the foundation that's described in Jaiva Dharma, and I'm happy to have questions, because then I have to think more about it, and it takes me to a clearer understanding of the whole topic. But the Sandhini Shakti, I said this, you weren't here, but I've said it 3 times, I'll say it a 3rd time, that it's described in Brahma Samhita that Lord Balaram is the first manifestation from Krishna. He is the first manifestation from Krishna through the Swarup Shakti. Nothing can exist except from Krishna's energy.
So Swarup Shakti is Srimati Radharani. Then from Swarup Shakti...
Well, now let's just, for a moment, for understanding's sake, divide the, or with analysis, divide the Shakti from the personality. If we just look at the Shakti, because it's the energy. Krishna himself, as you weren't here, but I described in the previous chapter, because Brajanath, he asks this question, well, if Shakti does everything, then what does Krishna do? Because many times you might have heard that my Gurudev says, Krishna is like Nirvishesh Brahm without Sri Radhika, without his energy. He doesn't do anything. It's his energy. Just like in our own tiny little microcosms, our energy, our energetic forms do everything, don't they? We are just sort of dictating, do this, do this, do this, do this, right? It's the energy that is active. So in Krishna, that energetic form, that energy takes on a form of Sri Radhika, ultimately. But the question was in the previous chapter, right at the very end, Babaji asks, I've just explained this, that he says, where is it? Oh, I want to read it to you directly so you hear it directly from the text, because it's really interesting here. Where is it? Oh no, 14. Chapter 14 is about the Shakti Tattva. And then he asks this question. So listen, I'm just walking back to chapter 14, because really we've got to read these chapters in sequence. I've just picked out sort of a sensational part of the jiva falling from Maya. To really get the full picture, I touched a little bit on chapter 13, chapter 14, chapter 15. So coming back to chapter 14 for a second, he asks the question. He said, all of this is simply the work of Shakti. He's been describing the Chit Shakti, Jiva Shakti, and Maya Shakti. In chapter 14, you have to read Jaiva Dharma. If we don't read and study Jaiva Dharma, we will not really get these essential truths clear. Jaiva Dharma is very simply presented. Bhaktivedanta Thakur doesn't make it sort of difficult and convoluting. It's very systematically opening out these truths. So in the 14th chapter, it's describing Shakti Tattva. And it's describing exactly what I've been saying, that all the energy is performed by Shakti, not by Krishna. So Krishna, in fact, it appears, does nothing. So now Brajanath, he's asking this question. He says, all of this is simply the work of Shakti. Apart from this, the spiritual world, the spiritual body, and the spiritual pastimes are also indications of Shakti. We just described from Chit Shakti are manifesting even the bodies of Radha and the Sakhis, etc. Are also indications of Shakti alone. Then what is the indication of Shaktiman Krishna? So what is Shaktiman Krishna doing? Now Babaji responds, listen, this is a very difficult problem. Do you want to kill this old man with the sharp arrows of your arguments? He's asking a good question here. My dear son, the answer is as simple as the question, but it is difficult to find a person who is qualified to understand it. So we have to apply ourselves. Anyway, I shall explain it, so try to understand. It's really simple. It's not difficult. So he says, I agree that Krishna's name, form, qualities, and pastimes all indicate the function of Shakti, right? The energy. However, freedom, svatantrata, freedom, and free will, sva-ichamayata, are not the work of Shakti. They are both intrinsic activities of the Supreme Person, and Krishna is that Supreme Person who has free will and is the abode of Shakti. Krishna is fully independent, and the simple example I just said before, remember, of the fire. The fire is the generating source, and the heat comes from there, and we use the heat in all kinds of different uses, heating fire, heating the body, heating ourselves, etc. The heat is the energy, the Shakti, and the Shakti is inferior to the fire because the Shakti actually is dependent on the fire, whereas the fire itself is fully independent. If the fire, like you strike a match, there's flame first before there's any heat. So the flame is there independent of the heat. So, but actually the heat can never be separated from the fire also. It's a wonderful contemplation because it's the reality of this creation of the material world. And it's all coming from Shakti, who is ultimately Sri Radhika. But this is the tattva. I mean, we like to talk about the lila actually more than the tattva. The lila is more attractive and more simple to hear. But if we have the tattva clear, then the lila becomes just so much more enhanced and beautiful. It becomes really amazing when we understand who is Radhika, what is the nature of her energy.
Swarup Shakti is the complete potency.
Yes, yes, yes.
But it says here, Maharaj, that Swarup Shakti manifests by the potency of activity, which is Kriya Shakti. So is Kriya Shakti different?
Swarup Shakti by potency of activity, Kriya Shakti. Yes, Swarup Shakti by the activity of the Swarup Shakti is the potency of activity. That's what the energetic is doing. The Swarup Shakti is performing the activities. That activity we can call Kriya Shakti. It's trying to break it into compartments so we can get some understanding that Kriya Shakti is the active ingredient of Swarup Shakti. Keep going. Ask me another question. Yeah, good questions. No, I appreciate what you're saying. You're trying to appreciate this.
So Sandhani is existential. It's not active. But the active part is Kriya Shakti. Is that understanding?
Yeah, and that initiates the Sandhini Shakti. And then from the Swarup Shakti is manifesting, you can look at the diagram, the Chit Shakti, Jiva Shakti, and Maya Shakti. They're three distinct Shaktis coming from originally Swarup Shakti through her potency of activity, Kriya Shakti. She's manifesting that. It's not trying to complicate it by saying all these different names. Actually, the more we hear about it and appreciate it, the more it becomes like simple and normal. But this point that I'm just making now about Krishna being independent of the Shakti is important to appreciate. This is Krishna's condition. And then Shakti is manifesting ultimately all the jivas. But where we're coming to today, specifically, are the jivas who have come into this material world. So if there's still something that's a little vague, don't worry, it'll gradually unfold. This is the phenomenon of reading Jaiva. If you get a question, perhaps 2 or 3 paragraphs down, the question will be answered. Every single time it's like that. This is your brother then? Yes.
You were looking for him, so I told you.
Yes. I saw him come in. I couldn't recognize him completely. Yes, very good. So let me keep reading, and please, you stop me the very second any flavor of question comes. So I'll start from the beginning of this paragraph again. There are also innumerable. This is the third type of jiva, right? We've discussed 2 jivas already. Their life is love alone. They don't even know Maya Devi exists. This is the spiritual consciousness. So how can you fall from there, as some groups claim, or one group claims? We should understand that this is aparad, actually, to think like that, because no other acharya has said like, and Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada has never said like that. I shared with Supal today, explicit quote from Srimad Bhagavatam. You can write down Canto 7, Chapter 1, verse 35. In the purport, in the first paragraph, Prabhupada is saying, Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada is saying, it is a fact that no one falls from Vaikuntha. If you think someone falls from Vaikuntha, your whole equation is out. It's like the 2 + 2 = 5. Nothing you build on top of that, because your respect for the spiritual world will diminish if you think that there's possibility of falling from there. The spiritual world is the spiritual world, and it's the activity of those jivatmas there is only unconditional love for Krishna, or perfect love. You see, we have no experience of perfection in this material world. Everything is imperfect. So we try to smear that onto our conception of the spiritual world and imagine there's some imperfection in the spiritual world that would allow us to fall. It's completely as bogus as you can get. It's Apasiddhanta. Bhaktivinoda Thakur, Jiva Goswami, Rupa Goswami, none of the acharyas have alluded to the jiva falling from Vaikuntha. None.
What about Jaiv?
Jai and Vijay were already in Vaikuntha, and they manifested to please the Lord. That was that's in context with where Prabhupada is saying it is a fact that no jiva falls from Vaikuntha. It's in the context of Jai and Vijay. Jai and Vijay come into this world to perform pastimes to please the Lord. In Viraras, they know the Lord likes to sport, likes to fight, and they have a desire in their heart to please the Lord in that particular way. So then the pastime is manifest of the 4 Kumaras coming to the gates and then cursing them and then them falling into the world. But that's a complete lila. But we are not here from that reason. And this is what it's going to describe. We need another 2 hours to get through this, actually, because it comes very strong, because it's relevant to our particular experience now. So there are innumerable atomic conscious jivas who emanate as rays in Karanadakshayi Mahavishnu's glance upon his Maya Shakti. That's brought in by Shambhu, impregnated, and we're there, the jiva. Since these jivas are situated next to Maya, they perceive her wonderful workings. Although they have all the qualities of the jivas that I've already described, someone asked the questions today, I think, do those jivas in the spiritual world have the same qualities as the jivas in this world? Yes, it's saying here directly. They have the same qualities. The same potential is there. Because we are pure spirit soul in potential, but we have become covered by the illusory energy. And this is what's going to be described. Because this chapter is titled, Jivas Possessed by Maya. This is fascinating. Although they have all the qualities of the jivas that I've already described, that's the 2 jivas in Golok and Vaikuntha, because of their minute and marginal nature, those jivas are not susceptible to that marginal nature in the spiritual world. They can't oscillate out of that marginal nature. They sometimes look to the spiritual world and sometimes to the material world. That's our existence today. This is not some historic thing we're talking about our present conscious condition. Sometimes you're here in front of Radha and Govinda, Jagannath, Baladev, and you're feeling spiritually enlivened. But perhaps you go into another environment, there's no stimulus, no udipan for spiritual, and your consciousness will drift into a lower, if you're not fully controlled. That's what will happen. It will be influenced by that. So we can oscillate by the modes of material nature. They sometimes look to the spiritual and sometimes to the material. In this marginal condition, the jiva is very weak because at that time he has not attained spiritual strength from the mercy of the object of his worship, Seva Vastu. When we first come in to this material world, unless we've connected with Guru or our Guru Varga or the Vaishnava teachings, then we're very weak. We don't have this Bal Shakti. You know, if you meet someone, maybe they may be materially very intelligent, but if they don't have spiritual intelligence, their intelligence is like zero. Among these unlimited jivas, those who want to enjoy Maya become engrossed in mundane sense gratification and enter the state of Nitya Bada, means eternally bound. They're eternally bound until they're no longer eternally bound. You have to understand that one. It took me quite a while to understand that one. Eternally bound, we would think that means eternally bound. Never come out, but you are eternally bound until you come out. Can you understand that? Because that is the fact. It's not that you're eternally bound. You're eternally bound until the point comes when you're no long. That breaking of the boundary simply comes from attraction to Krishna. That is the breaking of the boundary. That is the breaking of that bonding. On the other hand, the jivas who perform Chid Anushilanam of Bhagavan receive spiritual Shakti, Chit Bala, by his mercy and enter the spiritual world. When Sadguru infuses the heart with Chit Bala by his presence and his mercy and his extraordinary potency, he can infuse the heart of those jivas with that Bal Shakti. But always, it's up to the jiva to maintain that and go with that. There's never going to be a time when it's all done for us. This is a big lesson that's going to be described in these chapters. That it's not like a baby. Why? Because we have independence. Supersoul does not influence us away from, if you want a bottle of whiskey, Supersoul will let you go for it. Antaryami means witness. It's just witnessing. Nothing, not even Krishna, interferes with your independence. Otherwise, it wouldn't be independence, would it? You understand? If Krishna influenced, and it's a big responsibility when you realize this. No one's going to come, the cavalry's not going to come in and save you. You have to save yourself. And once you realize this point, you've got the key to unlocking the consciousness to actually relieve the binding of Maya. I said the other day, it's like holding on to a tree and you're crying out, let go, let go, let go. Who's holding on? Yes, I am holding on to this illusory energy. It's me who's holding. I want something from this material world. Therefore, I am bound. I want happiness for my family. I want happiness for myself. So many, goes on forever. Different subtleties of desires for pleasure. I remember you from before. Yeah. Okay, speak loudly.
Actually, I have a question here. So, as you say, the super soul do not interfere with the...
No, it doesn't. Otherwise, you wouldn't have independence.
So, how can we connect with one sloka from Bhagavad Gita?
How what?
How we can connect this with Bhagavad Gita one sloka is there? Mataha smriti jnana apohanam cha. So, Krishna tells, I am only your remembrance, I only give you the forgetfulness. So, how can we relate this?
Krishna is saying that Mataha, yes, Jnanam Aparanam Cha, that Krishna gives knowledge and remembrance, etc. With that knowledge and remembrance, you understand your independent nature to serve Krishna. That's what that knowledge will give you. But we have forgotten that. And Krishna will revive that memory of that. Supersoul is there. But Supersoul, when we connect with Supersoul through service to Krishna, then Supersoul will flood us with realization of Krishna. Supersoul is like a treasure box, so to speak, of potency that is waiting to be unlocked into your higher state of consciousness. It's all there. But Supersoul can only be relating to our Jivatma. There is Jivatma and Paramatma. Ultimately, Supersoul is not an eternal fixture. It's saying this in Bhagavad Gita also. Because where is Paramatma feature when all the worlds are again brought into the body of Mahavishnu? Paramatma has no service then. So Paramatma is not actually active at that time. There's a place in my Gurudev's Bhagavad Gita, and he says quite clearly, Paramatma is not eternal because it doesn't have eternal activity. When you're in the body of Mahavishnu, where is Paramatma then? He's not active then. He's active when we come into this world as Kshirodakshai Vishnu, as like the witness. Mahavishnu is manifesting the worlds. Garbhodakshai Vishnu is manifesting the creation within the worlds, the sargo, the planets, etc. And Yes. Yes, is manifesting the planets. But then Kshirodakshai Vishnu is the witness. And when Sri Guru is on the planet, that Paramatma actually disappears and Sri Guru sits in the heart instead. Gurudev has explained like this. Sri Guru will act as the Supersoul, but he will take a more active role than Supersoul does. Supersoul is in a neutral antaryami, witness position. It's all to understand our unique individuality, because we tend to lose our the realization of our unique nature. We tend to lump us, I am Indian, or I am American, I am this, I am that. And we tend to put ourselves in groups, or I am a devotee. And we put ourselves in groups like that. But ultimately, we are completely individual. And it's only that individual nature that is going to, when that is woken up, when you're going to feel satisfied and fulfilled. Understand? Little bit.
So Paramatma is different from Krishna. Like Krishna will not be there in us. Paramatma is different entity and Krishna is different.
When we come into this world, then Kshirodakshai Vishnu, Paramatma will come with us. Krishna will always stay with us.
Gurudev said he is out and Radha Krishna will come. I don't want Paramatma to stay in our heart.
Yeah. And we should understand what is Paramatma realization. Paramatma realization is practically the same as Brahman realization. It's seeing Paramatma soul within everybody. Brahmati, Paramatmati, Bhagavaniti, Shabhyate. But that Paramatma realization, I asked Gurudev personally one time, do we need Paramatma realization first? And my Gurudev was standing in a doorway and he jumped very high. Never! He said like that really, really strongly. Because you can be attracted by the mystical wonderland into that Paramatma state. And we all have that attraction to some degree. But that's not the path to bhakti. Let me read more. It gets more interesting. Then, so he's described those jivas who perform Chid Anushilanam of Bhagavan receive the spiritual Shakti of Chid Bala. Once you start to perform devotional service, you get connected to the current of Bal Shakti. And then you can start to make your decision very easily. Yes, I want Krishna, not Maya. Because you know what is that illusory energy then. So you can start to control the consciousness. Understand? Then he's saying, Baba, it is our great misfortune that we have forgotten our service to Sri Krishna and have become bound in the shackles of Maya. Only because we have forgotten our constitutional position are we in this deplorable condition. Because I've forgotten my real nature of Jivar Sarup Hoy Krishna and Nityadas. It's so simple. None of this is difficult, really. There's some words we have to get comfortable with. Sandini, Sangvit, Hladini, Chit Shakti, Swarup Shakti. We just get comfortable with the vocabulary. Once we're comfortable with the vocabulary, and once we just studied the map a little bit, then it becomes somewhat logical. But the principle is seva, is service to Krishna. Now, Rajanath is going to ask 7 questions here. And I explained to Rupa yesterday that they're all coming from a position of it's not my fault. This means I'm not accepting my own independence. If I think I'm here by someone else's design, then it's not my fault that I'm suffering. Many people like to think this. In English, we call it the victim complex. Oh, my mother beat me, my father was unkind to me, this is why I'm like I am, this influence, that influence, so on like that. But this means I'm not taking responsibility for my own unique strength, not taking responsibility to connect with my own spirit soul. I need to connect in service to the spirit. We have this beautiful verse, Savai Pumsam Poro Dharma, Yato Bhakti Arhoksaje, Ahoitiki Apratita, Yeyatma Supersedati. My Gurudev explains this happiness that is spoken about in this verse is the happiness of the supersoul. It's not the happiness of the Jivatma. The supersoul itself will feel bliss in its relationship to Krishna. It will wake up its original activity of service to Krishna, the supersoul.
But how supersoul enjoyment will make us different because he is different.
We'll connect with supersoul in service to Krishna. And when supersoul is connected with, then the bliss from supersoul will enter the Jivatma. So if supersoul is happy, then the basically. And Bhaktivedanta includes this so beautifully because he knows we are going to have objections. So he puts them in for our benefit. Prabhu, Rajana, Prabhu, I understand that this marginal position is situated in Tatastha Sthana, this oscillating or junction of the spiritual and material worlds. Why is it that some jivas go from there to the material world while others go to the spiritual world? Why did I come here? Why do some go there? Babaji answers, Krishna's qualities are also present in the jivas, but only in a minute quantity. Krishna is supremely independent, so the desire to be independent is eternally present in the jivas as well. This is what we're talking about a little bit, our own independence. Because Krishna is independent, we have the same minute qualities as Krishna, so we have that independence also. When the jiva uses his independence correctly, he remains disposed towards Krishna. When he's properly utilizing that strength, this is what we're trying to acquire by hearing this, the strength of our own independent nature. This is the Bal Shakti. It is just this, when jiva uses his independence correctly, he remains disposed towards Krishna. But when he misuses it, he becomes vimukh, indifferent to him. What is this indifference? If someone is talking to us, and I said yesterday, and you just turn away from them, it's like an aparad. And the result of that aparad is that immediately material desires come in the heart, because we are by nature enjoyers. We're enjoyers of our service to Krishna. That service to Krishna is a great pleasure. It's not some sort of austerity. Why would Krishna want to be attracted to some yogi who's just performing severe penances and so on? It's not attractive to the supreme enjoyer, Krishna. But if we are happy in our service, like the gopis, like Mother Yashoda, they're so satisfied in their service to Krishna, happy, then Krishna will reciprocate with that sweet, loving flavor. But when he misuses it, he becomes vimukh, indifferent to him. It is just this indifference that gives rise to the desire in the jiva's heart to enjoy Maya. We have to enjoy something. If it's not enjoying service Krishna, we have to look to material energy to try and enjoy that. It's actually an equation. It's like, first is turning away from Krishna, and as a result of that, material desires come in the heart, and as a result of material desires coming in the heart, equals suffering. Material desires equals suffering, because I'm not material, I'm spiritual. I can't satisfy the spiritual soul materially. The soul is not interested in material pleasures. It doesn't satisfy it at all. Only spiritual pleasures will satisfy the soul. This is why very often we come and sit in front of Thakurji, we feel peaceful, we feel satisfied, shanti, because our super soul is actually satisfied now. But when we're dragging the super soul into mayic places, super soul won't touch those mayic places, but it'll still have to be reserved in its bliss. I think we're going to have to stop quite soon. 5 more minutes. I'll just finish this paragraph. But when he misuses it, it becomes vimukh, indifferent. It is just this indifference that gives rise to the desire in the jiva's heart to enjoy Maya. Because of the desire to enjoy Maya, he develops the false ego, that he can enjoy material sense gratification. You have to have a false ego if you want to enjoy matter. I'm not matter, I'm spirit. But if I want to enjoy matter, I have to have the false ego to enjoy it. Understand? It's logical. He develops the false ego that he can enjoy the material sense gratification. And then the 5 types of ignorance. Tamaha, not knowing anything about the spirit soul. Moha, the illusion of the bodily conception of life. Maha moha, madness for material enjoyment. Tamasira, forgetfulness of one's constitutional position due to anger and envy. And andar tamisira, considering the death to be the ultimate end. These are described in 3rd canto, chapter 12, verse 2. It's called in English nascent engagements. Lord Brahma, he covers the jiva with these 5 types of ignorance. He feels very bad after it and he gives up that body. But these 5 types of ignorance are covering the jiva. Fear of death, for example, is not our nature because we're actually eternal. Why should we be afraid of death? But because we've become so attached to the bodies, we have this sanskar, this impression by Lord Brahma screened on our hearts to be afraid of death. Death is just the relinquishment of this material body. That's actually all it is. And if we realize that, and all that goes along with the attachments of that material body, wife, family, friends, etc. So all of these are in the realm of detachment. That's why Shastra talks so much about detachment, isn't it? It's all in the same bag. Cover his pure atomic nature. Our liberation and subjugation simply depends on whether we use our minute independence properly or misuse it. So I don't have much more time to speak anymore. But this should be read every day.
Is this a real conversation, Maharaj, or it's a made-up one just to bring home the point?
It's an eternal Shastra. It's an eternal Shastra, And this conversation is built by Srila Bhaktivedanta Thakur and his expertise. But the precepts are absolutely eternal, and it's put into a novel-like form by the potency of Bhaktivedanta Thakur. He's put it in this format, but the actual scripture itself, the Dasamula, these 10 truths, are eternal. 3 truths about Krishna, 3 truths about the Jiva, then Achintya Veda Tattva, then Sadhan Bhakti, then Priti. And the first is the Praman. So these 10 truths are there.
Are these characters real? Balaji and Krishna?
Well, in the Rasa section, Gopal Guru is that guru residing in the Gambhira now, today, or in that line. His line is described. And Prem Das Babaji, who's described in the beginning, is also a living personality. And Pradumna, his guru, is also a living personality. Brajanath and the place he's born and so on, all the history is described there. So we accept it as fully like that. Because it seems like a novel, you know, and it's written, whereas Shukadev Goswami and Parikshit Maharaj are like personalities, but these same personalities are there, but they're not actually fictitious, they are personalities. Jaivadama ki jai. Go Premanandi. Haribol. I hope you appreciated the beginning of something.
Yes, Maharaj, so nice.
Just a little bit beginning, just touching. I was trying maybe to go too fast, perhaps. But
Do you take some regular classes besides this?
I have all these classes in 40 chapters online, but not current like this.
You want to sing?
No, you sing. Prabhu can sing.